Hey guys, how are you? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing a movie review. This movie is a comedy slash science fiction film from Sweden, Swedish language English subs, released in the year 2013, directed by Antonio Tublin, and this movie is called LFO. So LFO is about this man. He is not really doing very well with his wife and his young son. They're basically very distant from each other, and the wife is constantly complaining to this man. So this man basically is a recluse. He goes into the basement and basically spends all of his days trying to come up with sound frequencies. So these sound frequencies, the intention is to try and get a sound frequency that could actually control somebody else, basically mind control. And so he comes up with this sound frequency that enables him to do this. And so he uses his two neighbours as test subjects, and he makes them do whatever he wants, and this sense of control for this man gives him a sense of purpose, which ultimately makes him go on and on until things start getting a little bit too much and goes down a dark way. So what that path is that this guy chooses to take, something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on LFO. This is actually a very hard film to review because it is an incredibly strange movie, and there's a lot of content in this film that will make you think, but I have to be very careful not to give anything away. So as far as the content, this is about people having control, and that how far can an ordinary person go when he's actually getting what he wants. And so there is a transformation from this guy, from what he starts off as this pathetic person, but then slowly what started off as a pathetic and harmless person, once he gets control, he starts to transform into something else, and it starts to get very, very dark, which is something I wasn't expecting. Now, there is a strong level of comedy, but it is very Scandinavian comedy. It's very, very deadpan. So if you don't like deadpan humour where it doesn't cue the last, it doesn't have slapstick comedy, it is very much in the delivery of the dialogue that makes it very funny. It's the seriousness of the actual situation that makes it very funny. So if you're familiar with the works of Ben Hammer, who is a master of deadpan comedy from Norway, then you get an indication of what this film is going to be like. So it's not a typical comedy film, and I don't think this is going to appeal to a lot of people, but for me, I love Scandinavian humour, and I really got this film. I actually thought it was very funny, but at the same time very, very smart, and it will actually make you think. And then the way that this guy, he starts to go down different avenues of control, and it starts to build up, and you start to feel, okay, this film started off as harmless enough and it was funny, but then all of a sudden it's gone very dark on you, and so it turns into a very, very dark comedy. And I wasn't expecting all of these hidden treats in this film. It is a very low budget movie, but it doesn't actually look like a low budget movie. It's not actually made like a low budget film. It's actually made to its advantage. I thought the low budget actually helped create the sense of isolation that this guy was in. And it didn't show you the broad sense of mind control, it just showed you the control and what he was doing to his two neighbours. So it's a very up close and personal kind of film. It doesn't hit you on a broad scale. It is actually filmed in one house or one location for the majority of the film. And so because of its budget limitations, I actually thought it played it very smart by having a limited setting and limited characters as well. So the acting was very good, especially from the main character. He needed to go from this, as I said, a harmless person to a very, a feared person. He's not a straight out villain, but he is actually getting corrupted by the power, and that's what people actually, when you get power, you can be corrupted because you don't know when to stop, and that's exactly the case with this guy. And then you've got the two neighbours, and I thought they really played well off each other. When this guy starts to have his mind control, what he actually tells them to do and their reactions to the things that they're doing were actually really funny, and it actually made up for a very unique sort of science fiction film. And so, as I said, the second half of the film starts to go very dark, and it starts to get very disturbing, and it actually makes you think of one ordinary man's destruction once he is given the control, and the possibilities are endless for this guy. So that was very, very good. There is no soundtrack to cue when you should be feeling suspense, when you should be feeling happiness and laughter. It doesn't cue anything, so it's got a lot of confidence in itself, and it just allows to tell a story, and the director is expecting the viewer to have the intelligence to basically follow the story. So it's a compliment to the viewer, and I really like that nothing was obvious, that nothing was saying, okay, I'm going to cue this little bit of music and this is how you're going to feel. The director's basically saying, I'm going to put all the cues away, and you're going to make make up your mind as to what you want this film to be. So it is a very science fiction film. If you like those types of movies, then LFO is definitely a very unique experience. I actually really liked this film. I thought that it had a lot of replay value. It's only about 70 minutes long, so it is very short. And as I said, everything seems to be self-aware. It's got a low budget, but it plays to its limitations very well. It's got a very short run time, so it doesn't get bogged down in unnecessary side developments. And the characters are all very simplistic, which allows you to really get into the film. It is a little bit, weird, as I said, but the simplicity of the film allows you to follow it. So although in one particular moment you might not be able to get a grasp of the strangeness of the situation, it's still simple enough for you to follow it. So the next scene will happen, and then you can start from a clear slate without really getting lost. So I really like what Antonio Tublin has done with this film. It is yet another example of how good Scandinavian cinema is. This is much more of a lower budget than I'm used to with Scandinavian cinema, but it really does shine through, and it is an extremely memorable film. It's going to make you laugh, and it's also going to disturb you. So a lot of different elements in it to make it just a very good film, and one that I'm highly recommending. So overall for LFO, I'm going to give it 4 stars. Go out there and see it. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.